Right.
1, 2, 3, and we're live.
What's the name of the show?
The Tranquil Gi.
I was waiting for that. Excellent.
Anyway, good to have you guys.
Thanks
Awesome.
thanks for having us.
Yeah, nice. So I haven't got I wanted to get a whole bunch of segments ready so we can go, okay, this is like stuff we got to talk about, but I've got none of that.
Just it's open mat.
Open mat. So, but yes, interesting week this week. So, we can't obviously go into detail, but a horrible week because of the shooting.
Oh, that's what you're saying. Interesting.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure which way you're going to talk about. Yeah, that happened. That was something different in Auckland CBD. Were you there?
We had people there.
On site.
Yeah, because we had our guys get called down to shut the roads. So first thing I knew about it, I walked into the office, 7:30-ish.
Yeah.
Somebody says to me, some shit going down in the CBD. We've had 2 crews called out there. And I'm like, what's going on? And then obviously stuff started filtering through.
Yeah.
And yeah, we were just getting kind of dribs and drabs of news.
Yeah.
Hoping that everyone was safe. Because it was a construction site. There were loads of people ringing people at our work.
Yeah.
Saying, hey, is everyone okay? It's not one of our construction sites. But
Yeah.
So, yeah. And on the first day of the old World Cup as well.
Yeah, that's true.
For football,
Just make sure your mic is a little bit further up. There you go.
Football, not soccer.
Yeah.
For anybody who would like to.
But just so for people who don't know, so in New Zealand and in Auckland, there was a shooting, which doesn't happen at all. Like it's a really, although it's we had that massacre that happened down in Christchurch, but for the most part, it's very, very rare that it happens. And so what transpired was a guy going into a building site, a guy who was actually was he on probation?
He had an ankle bracelet.
He had an ankle bracelet.
Yeah.
And so went into the building site that he had been fired from the day before.
Is that now true? That's actually legit?
That's coming from the mainstream media, so I don't know how much you can actually...
I don't know if that's true then.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So let's say allegedly.
Yeah.
Allegedly. He was fired the day
before. Went in and found a couple of people, shot them, and then the police got there. And I think those... I don't know if you guys remember on YouTube, there was that guy in the States. I know they have like loads of shootings, but there was one clip that was going around YouTube where that police officer arrived at that school. You saw him like taking his gun out, getting ready with all the other guys, and then just marching into the...
Yeah.
Do you guys remember that?
Yeah. And
then eventually finding the guy, I think, on like the second floor, and then like unfortunately taking the guy down because he was shooting at them. But, you saw the armed... what are they guys called? Armed Reaction Squad?
In the States or here?
No, here.
It's armed response
unit.
Armed response unit.
Yeah.
And those, like actually seeing those guys in action doing what they're doing is just like, just puts another level of just such bravery. I could never imagine just doing something like that. So just going into what you would know is like a really bad situation. And a lot of those construction workers, a lot of video and stuff, all of them on the top of the construction site, just like hiding away.
Yep.
So yeah, pretty horrendous. And then the next day afterwards, some couple of guys climbing up the ferry terminal building, shutting that road down again.
But what was their plan? Were they just wanting to hang out at the top or get a good view of the harbour?
Because I saw a whole bunch of... I went down on Friday to work and saw a whole bunch of cops. So I just thought it was related to the shooting that happened the day before. But then there was like all the TV crew were there. All the cameras were pointing up to the building.
Right.
And so I didn't even know that was happening. I just saw later on in the news.
I've not even heard of that.
Really?
Well, there you go. Two guys just climbed up.
Next day.
The brick building.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Were they trying to be Spider-Man or?
No, they just climbed right to the top. There's like the flags at the top there, like a really small place. They climb right up top there.
It's for YouTube.
And just hanging out.
It's for the hits. It's for the likes.
Yep.
maybe.
That's what it is.
But anyway, they got arrested afterwards, so they eventually they came down.
That's
But they
also
shut
for
that
YouTube.
whole. That's probably right. They'll probably put it on TikTok later.
They're probably trending right now.
So yeah, a couple of crazy days in Auckland.
Wow.
But yeah,
What a way to start this podcast.
it is. Yeah, not on the best of notes, is it? But yeah.
I would actually really like to know what is this podcast about, John?
I think it's more just to get everyone around as part of our jiu-jitsu club, Melo Jiu-Jitsu, and just have everyone just have a bit of a yarn.
Right. But the yarn
So-
can go any direction.
Any direction.
Open mat.
Open mat.
Yeah.
But I
Good
think
map.
But I think we can have like certain maybe topics eventually maybe we would run
Yes.
through. But
If
I
we were
think
more organised, we could
if
get
we were
it.
more organised,
Yeah, I see what you're going with this.
So, but I think that'll come in time, hopefully. Yeah,
Hopefully.
if we get the time. But it's mostly just to get the guys around. Like we've got Olly here tonight.
Yes.
Yeah, then we'll have some of the other guys around. I think it's a good time
That
for
was
us
a long
just to
list.
all. Hey?
That was a long list. We've got Ollie here tonight and we'll have... Yeah, anyway. I'm just pulling your leg.
But it's cool.
I'm excited. I'm excited.
But I think even you can see it's kind of working in that, like the first podcast we did, which was like a total disaster, but it was fun to do, and
No comment.
completely raw. But the guys were coming this week and saying, "Oh, I didn't realize Jono, talking about certain
100%.
segments of that podcast, and then laughing at other parts of it." But I mean, I think that's the whole point of it, just so we can all get together. Because I mean, we all get together maybe 2 or 3 times a week, and we all roll and we get to spend time with each other. But we don't really end up spending, I'd say, quality time with and talking. And so I think that was my idea around it, really.
That's good. No,
And,
it's a good,
yeah,
it's a
and
good idea.
So I think that's
It's probably
really
best that we don't spend too much quality time with Leo as well.
Well said.
Or maybe.
I don't know.
We'll wait and
We'll
see.
find out.
We'll wait and see.
Well, since you've done that shot at me just then, do you still know what jiu-jitsu is? Because I haven't seen you
literally
in like a
forgotten.
couple
I think
months.
I think it's 6 weeks now.
Has
It's been 6 weeks.
Yep.
Okay,
might
tell
have to-
everyone what
yeah.
actually happened.
So John was putting us through a punishing pass and sweep.
I reject that.
Straight off beginning of the class.
Oh, so there was no warm-up.
Well, I thought I was kind of did fundamentals. I thought I'm pretty warmed up, and we were doing. Shows how far I were. We were doing K-guard.
Were we doing K-guard?
Yeah, we were doing K-guard escapes. So we were starting off in K-guard, and
Yeah.
we were going to. We either had to try and escape from K-guard,
Yeah.
or the person doing the K-guard had to try and follow it through to a submission. And I basically was trying to press or push down with my chest on my opponent's. It was Hunter, I think it was.
It wasn't.
No name drops.
He's the Ollie killer.
And he's the Ollie killer. Yeah,
I think
So
that's
it's
his
new
nickname.
nickname.
Yeah, new nickname of the Olly
You've
Killer.
been gone for 6 weeks, mate.
yeah. He thinks I'm
Nickname.
never coming back. Was as you do, putting pressure through your chest to try and flatten his leg to get past his leg, and his knee came back up, and I, instead of driving across his thigh to push his leg down, I drove straight onto his knee. So it was my rib cage, or just to the right of my rib cage, straight onto his knee, and cartilage and rib just went, and it felt like something had snapped. It was
Really?
a very odd feeling.
Did it make a sound?
Yeah.
Can you
Can
This-
I make the sound?
make this?
Something like that.
Wow. It's not what I
Um,
pictured.
That's the sound I thought it made anyway, in my head. So I then proceeded to throw myself on my back, thinking something's broken there. Strangely not painful,
Yeah.
like quite odd. I'd liken it to when I dislocated my knee years ago. I had a bad knee dislocation, proper 90 degrees.
To do with jiu-jitsu?
Not to do with jiu-jitsu.
What else do you get up
on
to?
a building site.
Oh, okay. All right.
And I remember it was only painful when they put it back in. It was uncomfortable, because you couldn't move your leg.
Yes.
It was
Okay,
just
hang on.
uncomfortable.
So when you dislocated your knee, like
Yeah.
what? So how? So what do you mean? Like the whole socket of your knee?
So
came
my
out?
whole
The patella.
my whole left knee went from that position there 90 degrees.
That's disgusting.
Yeah, it was pretty grim.
So how did you do that?
Um,
Don't tell me it was because you were stepping down a step.
no. It was
Hunter was there with a crowbar. What were you doing, Hunter?
I don't think Hunter was even born. Do you know what? I doubt Hunter's dad was born when this happened. I think I was like 25, 26. And
Oh, he was.
I was on the
Hunter's
back of
definitely
a piece of construction equipment driving down this unmade road in some housing estate being built somewhere in England. And the guy was driving real fast, and it's quite bouncy, the back of this thing. And we used to just get rides on the back of it, which we shouldn't have done. We weren't supposed to do. And basically, he just, for a laugh, suddenly turned hard 90 degrees.
It's a good laugh.
So my body twisted, and that knee basically hit an upright on the back of this piece of kit. So my body twisted, and the knee stayed where it was.
Oh my gosh.
So
Actually reminds me, I saw an Instagram video of this guy. It's a Tricksters or something where these guys jumping from like one pole to like the next pole.
I kind of
What is it?
parkour.
Parkour.
Yeah,
Is that what it's
parkour
called?
sort of
Yeah,
stuff,
parkour.
I saw this one guy jumping like onto this pole, then jumping this massive gap, trying to land on a pole, and his leg basically went, I think, through the pole, and then he carried on going forwards, and his leg just like got trapped. And he's just dangling there. And it's just like, oh my gosh.
There's certain videos I won't watch. Like
just-
if there's things like that, dislocations, broken arms, I'm like, nope.
It's too squeamish, man.
Yeah.
I'm a wuss. But okay, so knee,
Yep.
rib, face, of course. But what else has happened to you?
But what happened? So were you lying on the floor?
So I had to throw myself off. So the platform of this piece of kit was probably 3.5, 4 feet above the ground.
Yeah.
Or 1.2 meters to the metric folks out there. And your first thing is when you just put your leg back down and it doesn't work.
Ooh.
So I kind of just threw myself backwards off because it was quite soft ground that we were on. And it was absolutely, it was raining very hard at the same time. We were in the middle of this kind of field, essentially. And so the guys who were with me basically just covered me with raincoats whilst they phoned the ambulance.
But could you see your knee was just totally...
Yeah, I was
out.
wearing jeans, but and you could see, I was just looking at my leg going, well, that shouldn't be the shape it should be. And because you can't move it or straighten it out, it's just weird.
So it was just locked in place?
Yeah.
Like a
Because
noodle, maybe.
as soon as there was nothing to, it was stopping it move. So it was kind of at a, 30-degree angle, I suppose. So anyway, ambulance turns up, pumped me full of pethidine, which is,
That stuff
The
is
good
great,
stuff.
isn't it?
fairly hardcore painkiller. Said, are you allergic to it? Well, I've got no idea, but
Let's find out.
We've got between now and half,
Shoot
half
me
an
up.
hour to, I think I went to Addenbrooke's Hospital in Cambridge in the UK, which is a fairly well-known hospital. So I'm in the hospital. Worst thing that happened was they cut my jeans off. And they were like a mint pair of Levi's.
Your
And I'm
10
like-
pounds gone down the drain.
Well, when I did my shoulder in with surfing, so I came out, I was wearing a wetsuit there. So I went, marched myself off to the Lifesavers Club after telling my wife who had just started, got the kids ready, started suntanning, just like 2 minutes into it. And I walked up and saying, I think I broke my shoulder. So walked myself to the Lifesavers Club, and then they took me down, and the guy got the scissors out, and I was like, "What are you doing?" He says, "Are we going to cut your wetsuit off?" I was like, "No, you're not."
Right.
So
Yeah.
put the thing off. So I was like,
Could you
"No."
get it off though?
Yeah,
Could you
I
get
could.
it off?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I
He was
there was
eager
enough.
to cut your wetsuit,
There
wasn't
was
he?
enough like adrenaline in my body to be able to, because I couldn't honestly, like, when I lifted my shoulder up, it felt awful.
Yeah.
And it was just bad. So I just managed to get it enough, and they just kind of yanked it off.
Right.
So I was no way I was going to cut my wetsuit.
No.
But
No, wetsuits aren't cheap, and I'm guessing your jeans were.
They were Levi's, man.
Oh, they're Levi.
They were like, they were expensive back in the day.
Yeah, that's true.
When it was still shillings and pence and stuff.
Please tell me how they popped it back in.
Oh, this is hilarious. So they cut my jeans off, you know, I'm sitting there, I'm surrounded, I'm trying to be like, you know, tough about this. I'm surrounded by, you know, young nurses. You know, I'm 25. I'm giving it, yes, it's okay. You know, breathing on gas and air. And I'm looking at this thing and it's swollen, you know, it's just in the wrong place. It's really swollen up by this point. And this, she was a ward sister, I think. Basically she said, I'm going to need to just do an examination of it because we need to see how bad it is. So she said, it's going to hurt, but I'm just going to examine it. She said, breathe deeply on the gas and air. So I started breathing deeply on the gas and air, and she literally just shoved it straight back into place.
So she was going to be doing that.
Yeah, didn't even give me a 3, 2, 1.
So she was tricking you.
Oh, too right, man. And you need to be tricked in that situation.
Huh.
And I went, Jesus effing Christ was my expletive. To which the American ambulanceman, I remember this to this day, and this was, you know, this was 30 years ago-ish. And the American ambulanceman who brought me there went, I don't think he had anything to do with it, son. That was the one line that I remember from
Gotta love it,
that stay in the
Americans.
hospital.
From all the gas you were taking.
And yeah, that was it. I then went in plaster from hip to ankle. I was in plaster for about 8 weeks, or a cast, and then months of physio afterwards, just learning to walk.
Oh, wow.
I wonder if they would do that differently these days, like, because they always say if you need to try and use your, you know, yeah, if you've hurt yourself or, you know, trying to use your shoulder or your knee as quick as possible. I wonder if in like nowadays, like if that would be different.
I think they'd probably
Well, let's test it. Let's, Ollie, how do we start?
just kick it out and we'll give it a go.
But
But I suppose the rib, so if I compare that to the rib, so what they
Yeah.
did was they go, right, we're locking it straight, we're sticking you in a cast,
Yeah.
we're making sure that you can't move it for 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And then you've got another 8 weeks of physio after that. Whereas went to the rib on the next day, sort of just tried to.
But before
Just-
we get that, so you hurt your rib, lying flat on the floor. Okay, what goes next?
Just kind of went, okay, I'll try and sit up. That wasn't happening.
I think that's where I heard some sounds from that corner of the mat.
Yeah,
I was rolling over there and I was like, oh, that sounds
possibly.
interesting.
Just like whimpering,
Possibly swearing.
Yeah,
A little bit
whimpering, crying. Yeah.
whimpering.
Oh, yep.
And I kind of went, okay, that's odd. I should be able to turn on my side then. No. As soon as I did that.
All the pressure?
Well, it's because it was moving as well. So you could feel it kind of flexing out. So after lying there for a couple of minutes and John going, you right? Jason came across. Neil was there going, he's broken his rib.
Well, Neil's seen it.
Neil's done a few things.
Neil's
Neil's
seen it all.
Neil on the podcast
yeah,
with you as well, so you can just describe it. Yeah,
He's
He's
been
amazing.
around the world. He's seen it all. He knows what's...
Well, he's had far worse injuries, which we need to get Neil on and chat about his injuries because
Sure.
they're next level. But he kind of went, yeah, it's broken. So,
and we were all going, nah, it's not broken.
Yeah.
I think it's just, yeah.
and because when you try and sit up, you're engaging your abs and your lats and everything, all that's pulling.
Yeah.
So what happened was John and Jason, I think, eventually kind of hooked under an armpit each and said, right, I'll just keep my back dead straight, try and lever up, you know, to 90 degrees. And once I was up there, it was fine. Managed to drive home okay. Spoke to my sister-in-law, who is a physio, who lives down in Wellington, and she does a bit of physio.
She's like, you did what tonight? What is that?
Well, she just rolled her eyes and kind of, oh, jiu-jitsu, what a surprise.
One of those guys.
Well, because I think when I did my, you know, whatever I did on my calf that time as well.
Yeah, that was gnarly as
She's
well.
just.
Well, you got
she's just
another story afterwards.
Oh,
Okay, let's just stay with one.
I was
but-
pretty brief. I think I'd only been doing it a few months then. But so anyway, she said, "Don't strap it." And I suppose that goes to what you're saying about how they treat knees then versus how they treat them now. Like the old way of dealing with a broken rib is to strap it hard and stop it moving.
Right.
She said, don't strap it. Sit upright. So you have to prop yourself upright. You know, your bed tonight, if you get any sleep at all, you need to be sitting bolt upright. Just avoid any of that kind of, you know, that engaging abs or lat muscles. So I had a pretty crap night's sleep. Managed to get a doctor's appointment. Doctor kind of went, yeah, we can't do anything about it.
So you can actually feel your rib
It's moving. Straight
That's a
to
party
physio.
trick, folks.
Physio said, go and get it x-rayed. Got the x-ray. And the trouble is cartilage doesn't really show up on x-rays. There's a small fracture on the floating rib. But the biggest issue was the cartilage, so the torn cartilage, because it's amazing how much medical stuff you find out when you've done something.
Of course.
Cartilage has a very low blood supply, so it takes twice as long to fix as a bone does. So when I got the x-ray, we went straight back to the physio. This was all on the Wednesday. And the physio said, we're going to put some light strapping on it just to help you.
Give you a bit of stability.
But essentially, and it's using like K-tape.
Mm.
So it's not all the way around, it's just 3 strips. And she said, we're going to give you some painkillers.
Hey.
Got offered some fairly gnarly ones. I went...
Actually, yeah, we'll go into that a little bit later. Because that was like insane. Like, anyway.
And so I went for the Voltaren, I think, or something. Something begins with a V anyway. And she said, we'll see you in a week's time. Like, do as little as possible, rest, try not to drive. This is after I'd just driven to the x-ray place in Botany and driven back. Yeah, that was kind of, but I guess it's amazing then how quickly it started to feel better. Like the first week was just agony. I couldn't sleep. Every time I moved, I could feel this thing going, like a big shift.
What about laughing, coughing, sneezing?
Yeah, terrible.
I think that's the worst. I think for me, like that's the worst thing when you injure yourself is, and for me it's my neck, is it just goes and you can feel it go and you think to yourself, oh crap. Worst. And the first couple of nights are always the worst. Like you just don't get enough sleep. And I think that's one of the worst parts of it is just you in agony, can't get enough sleep. And all you want to do is you just want to get down to the osteo or the physio or the chiropractor just so you can get better. So yeah, I remember that first I felt awful for that night because I just knew that it was just going to be like terrible, like night sleep and yeah. So,
but it was even by the next week when I went back to the physio, it had got remarkable. It was still tough. So I was really struggling still to just sit up. So I had to kind of push myself up on my hands from any kind of position other than bolt upright, because it was moving and that hurt. But again, a bit like the dislocation thing, it was partially pain, but partially because it just felt wrong. It shouldn't be doing that. And I think that after about 3 weeks, I'd sort of got used to it doing it. And you just kind of go, oh, well, it's going to do that for a bit. Saw physio on Wednesday this week. She said another couple of weeks, you should be good to go back to light. Light sparring.
Light sparring? I thought it would just be maybe light drilling.
Yeah, I'm not sure she's 100%
I don't
aware
think she knows.
of what BJJ
She doesn't.
is.
Yeah. But there's a few
I did
guys
actually
here.
say to her, I said I'll check it with the crew. I said, but if you may get a few of these injuries, you might want to just come down and see what it involves at some point. Because I think if you've got before I started BJJ, I got no clue what it involved.
Yeah.
Like I turned up to class number 1 at old Beachlands, and saw all these guys wearing they're wearing karate stuff for, because again, had no real idea of what it was good. Didn't do any research into it at all.
But then how did you find, what brought you down on that day?
Because I'd been wanting to do, I used to years, and it was years ago, I used to do judo, but I was at school. So just, I am by far the oldest person.
Years.
It's
a lot of years.
Decades.
It's 40 years plus.
You did judo for 4 years plus.
No, I did it 40 years ago.
Oh right. Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's 60 right now.
Yeah.
Heading that way.
He looks really good for 60.
He looks great for 60.
I'll take it. So I did it at school for about 2 or 3 years. and then just never kind of, it wasn't, there was Taekwondo was a big thing in the UK. Worked with a guy who was like a 2-dan black belt in Taekwondo, solid dude and whatnot, but I just kind of didn't, I was thinking there's a lot of just kicking through shit. I don't, it didn't really have an appeal. Like I always thought there's a ceiling to what you can do. There's a ceiling to what you can learn. And then, had kids, and just life gets busy. And then when we moved over here, I said it'd be really good. I wanted to actually look into doing capoeira.
Yeah.
Holy cow, you doing that?
Well, just because it's flowing, it's, there's little risk of you getting punched in the face.
I'd pay money to watch you do it. I really would.
No, I haven't done it.
I know, but I'm saying I would pay.
Would you?
To watch you try and do it.
Many.
I want you to be dancing and throwing those kicks out like.
It's more the flexibility with that stuff, eh?
Yeah. But it always intrigued me.
Yep.
I think. And there's a couple of clubs in central Auckland. But again, they're just not, by the time you've done like a 10 or 12 hour working day, you don't want to then go, oh, great, now I've got to drive into Newmarket and spend another 2 hours there and get home at 10 o'clock at night. And then I'm not a big social media sort of fella. My Brexit basically switched me off social media. But my partner said, you're still on the grapevine, I think. She said, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is starting off in Beachlands. I went, all right, okay, Jiu-Jitsu, that kind of sounds martial arty. Give it a crack.
It's in
Beachlands. So I'd be stupid to turn it down. Plus, I've got no excuse.
So you've not actually seen any video clips? Nothing? You just walked in?
I'd watch UFC and stuff like that. But if you're not a connoisseur of that kind of thing, you don't tend to link it with anything.
Sure.
So did you when you heard jiu-jitsu, did you link that from like watching UFC at all? No, nothing. Which is interesting. Yep.
And when I left the UK, it wasn't even a thing.
No.
And bear in mind, I left the UK 7 years ago, but 7 years ago, it wasn't a thing.
It's kind of, I would say 10 years ago, it was kind of starting. Like when I started jiu-jitsu, I felt that it was kind of becoming mainstream. And then, but
on a global scale, not here in New Zealand, more in the USA.
I'd say maybe on a global scale. But I reckon the UK was far more mature in jiu-jitsu probably than New Zealand. It's probably just you just didn't pay attention in terms of like maybe wheeler clubs.
Didn't live in a big city, you know what I mean? And so it was just
there wasn't the interest of you.
There was boxing, a lot of boxing clubs.
Yeah,
lot of taekwondo.
Yeah,
tang soo do. Karate, judo. There were lots of that sort of stuff around. Constantly saw it being advertised. Never ever saw anything around Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah.
So yeah, I literally turned up on class 1, and John went, "This should fit you," and gave me a 4, I think, at the time.
Well, you got a free gi. I didn't get a free gi.
Well, you know.
What?
You got one when you started at ground control.
Oh, so I don't get one here. Jeez, all right, fair enough.
That's the same gi.
They're not like to ride home.
They're not great gis. They rip pretty quickly.
Great to first start.
It's good to have something.
And then
you don't want to be naked.
Got paired up with a Scottish dude.
Yes, I remember that guy.
4-stripe white belt.
Yeah, I think it was 3-stripe at the time.
3-stripe white belt.
Yep.
Who was quite good.
Yeah.
And quite intense.
Right.
And yeah, that was it really.
So your first experience, you're like, holy cow, this is interesting, or
do you know what I really noticed about the first time I did? Well, the second class I came was because I wasn't sure at first whether we were allowed to come to once a week or twice a week or whatever. And John said, "Yeah, man, it's like Tuesdays and Thursdays. Just turn up like both." And the second class, because it was like no rolling in the first class, was the rule. Like the first time you do it, don't roll, just watch. And then. And we had Cam was there, and I'm trying to think who else was a bit hot, because predominantly
Cam,
new
brand
people.
new. Yeah.
Who's that guy?
Sam Frame.
Sam. Oh yeah, Sam Frame. Yep.
Yeah. So
he's in the UK at the moment. Yeah.
These are guys who,
I've heard of Cam. I think I was here.
Yeah.
And then, he gets a blue belt and then disappears.
That's it, man. He has a blue belt widower. But I remember coming to the second class and we were doing sort of, stand-up defenses, like the real early ground control kind of white belt.
Yep, syllabus stuff.
Kind of syllabus stuff. When you hadn't done anything like that at all, I mean, I could see some of it was related to kind of judo stuff, but that was reaching into the dusty parts of my memory. But I remember rolling, and the guys then, even the guys who'd probably only been there a couple of weeks longer than me, just saying, "Hey man, we do this and do that." And I think teaching me to do an upa, which I think we'd done.
Yeah.
You guys had probably done on the first class when I wasn't there.
Yeah.
And I went, this is really cool. Like, nobody seems to be having ego here and they want to kick the crap out of you. And I think that made me want to come back. To learn more and know that, everyone seemed to have a really good attitude about it. And I guess in the, 3 years now or so we've been going? It's about 3 years in October, isn't it, I think we've seen a few people come through who you can tell, like, it's about turning up and ego and winning and not kind of seeing it for what it probably is, and they don't last. It weeds people out.
You're looking at me as you're saying this.
No, I'm not saying that at all. No, because you came back.
I came back.
You got over the whole ego thing.
But you moved though, like you moved from, you were in East Tamaki area, Botany area, and then you moved out here to Beachlands.
Yeah, but I was injured.
Brought the area down a little bit, and
I went through the injury thing, and that's another conversation. But it was in my mind. I was like, I don't want to go back because I'm not as fast. I'm not as good. I'm not as good now, but anyway. And that held me back. Yeah. And then you just got to get over that mental, like, just go back. It's all about going back.
I think I would say that's for most things. If you even think about gym or CrossFit or whatever it is, like I think once you've been away for some time, either because you've been injured or it's really hard to get your mindset in to actually go back. Yeah. Because you can't, and then when you do go back, you're still thinking that you at the skill level or the fitness level of when you were before you got injured or before you left. And so that first session back is kind of like a real mental thing. Like you really have to try and, or it is for me at least, like you really have to force yourself to go there. And then when you're actually there and you going through the motions and you're doing your exercises, it's actually not that bad. No. I think you just have to come in with a different mindset and go, okay, I'm starting from scratch again. And the good thing is that you progress way, way quicker than what you would have done if you had started like right from the get-go. Like when I injured my shoulder and I went back to CrossFit, I couldn't do the pull-ups how I wanted to do it or anything, but it's you kind of try and progress. You try, okay, my goal now is to try and if I can just raise something over my shoulder, that's a win. Or if you instead of going to CrossFit and going, okay, I want to try and do a pull-up, I can't even do a pull-up. Okay, I'm not going to come back. I'll wait for my shoulder to get a little bit better and then I'll come back. And then just that never happens.
It's that cycle. I went through it. Like, I'll wait for this or I'll do that. But I think, like you said, and like you're saying also, no egos, it's once you come through those doors, that battle was over.
Yeah.
Everything in here was easier. It was more the challenge I put on myself mentally just to walk through those doors.
Yeah.
So it was kind of interesting.
There's a great, I can't remember who said it now. I've possibly seen it on a podcast or heard it somewhere. But it's still three dudes sitting around talking about jiu-jitsu, and one of the guys said, people who last in jiu-jitsu are people who are happy that they're going to suck for 10 years and then carry on sucking, because essentially it takes a really, really long time to get kind of good, let alone really good.
Yeah.
And you can't let, if that's the kind of thing that bothers you, you're probably not gonna last the game. And I mean, I look at it as a, I have to adjust. I am 56 in 2 months, in November. You got to adjust your game. There's no way I'm going up against a 25-year-old in a weight class or anyone here who's younger and faster and stronger than me and play the same game. You have to adjust your game. And I think, and there's no way with just over 2 years under my belt that I've got anywhere close to a level of the arsenal that you would need to be able to really start doing that naturally without kind of thinking about it. But I think you're right. Even after COVID, because that was probably a 6-month break.
Yeah, that was like that was hard for a lot of people. Like that's why I said I think when we all came back, everyone was starting to get there. I think at the end of that year that we came back from COVID on that, I think at third time, whatever it was, that was a massive milestone for everyone. Just the fact that everyone came back, were started to train again. I changed the syllabus completely. We had changed the name, everything. Like it was just everyone was starting from scratch again, and that's a massive thing for people who've kind of been through jiu-jitsu for the last 6 or 9 months and then having to come back again. So I think the fact that everyone came back and we grew kind of during that sort of trial, that those few months was pretty cool. So yeah, I think and I said that actually at the end of that year, I said when I was a white belt, I had the luxury of being able to train for 2.5 years or whatever to get my blue belt, and I didn't have any, there wasn't any pandemics, there wasn't anything that kind of stopped me. I just had that luxury. And you don't see it as a luxury then. It's just kind of like
life.
It's just, of course I can go train 2 or 3 times a week.
Yes.
But for everyone who kind of had that gap, that's really hard to come back with. Yeah. So yeah.
I saw the virtual classes that Ground Control was doing, and I was just like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
The images that people would show me, and I was like, no.
I did them.
Did you do them?
Yeah. And
did you dress up your teddy bear with your gi?
Yeah, no, I did, because to me
same
it was...
teddy bear that you sleep next to? And,
yeah.
Okay, just checking.
Still dressed in the old
Still
Ground
in the
Control
gi.
gi.
The one that you got for free, which I didn't.
Absolutely.
Thanks, John.
That's okay.
Do you want me to, I'll bring it in. I'll come back. I'm going to come and see you guys grade on Thursday.
You should come back and see Hamish's gi.
I saw it.
Hamish's gi is amazing.
The pink one.
Yeah, you
The
saw
pink
it.
one. Pastel pink, which is kind of cool. It's not the bright pink.
In fairness, you're not going to rip it out of Hamish, are you?
He's too good. He's too good.
Challenge accepted.
No.
Well, Andy's too good.
I'm not challenging him at all.
But and it was interesting. I remember speaking to James Deuce. Do you remember him? He used to come to Jiu-Jitsu.
Oh yeah, James. Yeah.
Long time ago. And said, "Hey, man, how come you aren't? Like I was the only person from Beachlands, and obviously we were still under sort of GC then anyway. But I was the only person from Beachlands on it.
Yep.
And I kind of said, and I remember I saw James somewhere, I think at school or something. I said, how come you're not doing it? And he went, because I'm on screen all day.
Yeah.
He said, I'm on Zoom meetings all day, and I guess because of what I do for a job, we were as normal as you could be because we had to be out. So I didn't have the screen thing, but to me. And the mindset, and I suppose the big trigger for me, and I think it was probably from the first or second lesson that we did, was jiu-jitsu's like meditation for me. It's a couple of hours twice a week where all I think about is not dying.
Nearly happened 6 weeks ago.
But listening, trying to take in the information. There's a lot of information to take in. And when you start breaking down, the just simple moves. Everyone always says, anyone said, like, first strike white belt grading is the toughest.
Yeah.
It's the toughest set of moves from a cardio point of view, because it's, just top control drill, right? Do top control drill for 5 minutes. It's hard.
It is hard. Yeah.
But you have to think about it, You can't, no pun intended, let your guard down. You have to think about it. And whilst you're doing that, you're not thinking about anything else. And that's been the toughest thing for me in the last 6 weeks is, I'm starting to do a bit of training at home and stuff now, but, just kind of going, apart from going for a walk, I can't actually do anything. And you need that switch off.
Yeah.
You need to be able to focus and concentrate on stuff.
Yeah.
And so that kind of and that's what it was for me. That would be a couple of times a week, only for an hour, watching, Mike or trying to think was rotated through a few people.
Yeah, I did a couple of lessons when
maybe
I
in
did
the
it,
garage, whatever. But it just kept.
I think it keeps you
muscle
moving,
memory.
keeps you at the forefront of your mind, and keeps you the techniques kind of loose, and you kind of got to So it did serve a purpose, and it was good in that way.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah. I mean, there's I didn't come back going, cool. I know more than anyone else now. But to me, it was just, hey, there's a pattern that if I can keep kept it.
When you guys came back after the COVID lockdown, was it here or was it still Taputu?
We came back.
Here.
Oh, to here. Because, my first day coming back here, because this man doesn't update his website, it had the address of the old Taputu.
Did it?
And so I rock up and I walk in there in my gi. There's a basketball game going on and all the people playing basketball are like, what's this guy? Like, he's not wearing Air Jordans. Like, this is ridiculous. He's in his pajamas. And I think I had to go onto the Facebook page and then find out there was a different address.
Oh,
As part of
it's terrible.
It's part of the test, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
If you pass that, then you can. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. But you came.
I got here.
Nice.
I tried to go in early, and then I'm walking around that whole building. I'm like, oh, maybe it's on the third floor or whatever other floor they had. It's a bit of a maze, that building. And then
because I think Tapuru were really struggling with what they could let in and what they couldn't.
Yeah, I think when I spoke to them, and they're lovely down there.
What they let in?
Well, because it was
you had to have the vaccine passes.
Well, I mean,
they're not. Can't let this guy in. Is that what they're talking about?
No. No, they had the vaccine passes there, which we.
Oh,
I mean, we had
that thing, right?
But I think they had way more restrictions.
Yeah.
Like it was because at that. I mean, if you remember, we forget about it.
I think it was still distancing. So whilst you're training distancing, and we were kind of going, how's that going to work? With jiu-jitsu? Well, it's remote spider guard, which I've developed over the last 6 weeks.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I love that remote spider guard. Awesome.
It's where I'm just in the corner of the mat.
Maybe you could teach it to us when you come back. Will I win tournaments with remote spider guard?
Yeah.
It's all about the mind. Well, Lachlan's going to be there. We should actually, maybe you should get in touch with Lachlan for his match tomorrow. So
true.
Actually, he's got 4 matches tomorrow.
By the time you see this, Lachlan, your match has already gone by. But good luck.
Yeah, good luck, Lachlan. I'll be seeing you tomorrow.
Good on you, mate. That's
that's pretty good.
That takes some stones because that looks pretty hardcore. That stuff. Sub only. Yeah, it's pretty hectic. But that's good. Glad you arrived with your after the confusion.
Yes, I don't know if you've updated your website.
I have. It says 5 Jacobs Way.
There you go.
Righto.
A good place to come.
Yeah.
So the moral of the story is, you are not the youngest in our club.
I think I'm the oldest by some years.
I don't want to put it that way, but
that's
sure.
Fine. I'll take that.
You're fit though. You've done stuff all through your life.
Yeah.
You are changing the way you train to keep up with what your body's telling you is yay or nay, and not going too hard on the red line.
Yep.
And you're coming back to get Hunter.
Yes.
Good.
I think that's. I mean, it's longevity in jiu-jitsu. It's like, you see this all the time. You see guys come in, really enthusiastic, and start training, and they here for every single class, and then all of a sudden, like 2-3 months, later, it's kind of like starts fading and waning. Always just say, people who turn up are the ones, eventually, will get their blue belts, then get their purple belts and brown, and then eventually get your black belt.
It's that easy, eh? What do you think, since you are a black belt, sir, what do you think leads to the majority of white belts stopping jiu-jitsu at the start? I know there'll be lots of reasons, but do you think there's a common theme?
I think one of the ones, like you mentioned earlier, is probably an ego thing, where they're probably not progressing as quick as they want.
Yeah.
And, maybe they're getting tapped by, a 56-year-old or, whatever. So it's like, I don't know. It's just
I have no problem, mate. It's my go-to. It's my go-to move to tap.
But I always say to people, you need to tap. When you tap, you learn. Even as a black belt,
lose.
Yeah.
Lose lots.
That's right.
Yeah, man.
Because either there's 2 things happening, right? Either you are putting yourself in a position that's bad because you're trying to practice and you're going to get caught.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing is that you're practicing something. So for me, when I was at white, blue, and, purple, brown, I was like, I always sort of focused on something. So, at white belt for me, I don't recommend this, but for me, it was, okay, I want to try and get really good at open guard. And so, which was completely what Mike didn't want me to do, was, Mike was, and he's correct, first stripe syllabus, that's the core, that's the fundamentals, and you should do the fundamentals, which I did do. But for me, in my mind, I was like, okay, but outside of that, I want to get good at open guard. So I practiced loads of spider guard and delahiva and reverse delahiva and, butterfly, all that sort of stuff, right? And then when I moved on to blue belt, it was all about, okay, now I want to really concentrate on half guard and deep half and 50-50 and all those positions. And then I did that for like 2-3 years. And then when I got to purple belt, it was something else, and brown. So I don't know where I'm going with this, actually. What was the whole lead up to this whole thing?
I thought it was turning into a little bit like...
why? What's the, with the whole white belt?
Why would they usually leave? Yes.
That was a complete segue that I don't know where I was going down with that. But anyway.
The ego thing.
The ego thing.
So it's progression.
Yeah, so it's like...
It's speed of progression.
Yeah. So I just think... what I was saying about it, that's the reason why I was saying is the second thing is that you're practicing something. And so in my case, it would have been at white belt, I'm practicing open guard. And, the first week you come in there after watching your videos or trying to drill some stuff with one of your, your training partners, you're going to get smoked. A guy's going to, rip your grips. He's going to Tori underpass you. He's probably going to knee ride you, get your collar, and he's going to cross choke you.
This sounds like a normal training session for me, yes.
Well, that's...
Receiving it, not doing it. I just want to be clear.
Don't downplay yourself.
No, downplay yourself.
I have to. Then that's how I beat them.
Oh, fair enough. Psychological.
Yes.
I get it.
Oh, this guy. Then
reverse psychology.
Yes. Yeah. Carry on. Sorry.
Yeah. So I think that's one thing. So you see practicing something, in which case, you're going to be terrible in the first week. Second week, you're going to get better. Third week is going to get better. And then eventually after 2-3 months, you're going to be pretty good at those techniques. And then, the others is just, you're coming here. Yes, you are going to get smoked for the next 2 years, and you just can't handle it. So
it's kind of true.
And that's just the reality of it. It's just, if you're going to go up against a 4-stripe white belt and you're, got no stripes and got hardly any experience, you're going to get smoked. And then you got a blue belt, and then you got a purple belt, you got a brown, you got a black belts there. I mean, it's a tough gig, jiu-jitsu, and that's the reason why we whittle people out. And a lot of times people are expecting belts rather than actually just putting the time in and just trusting, the coaches and professors around them. And so it's just people are impatient. You see a lot of guys like Kickdale and all of them, like they having these courses of how you can get your black belt in 4 years, and it's like you really in the grand scheme of things, you're having your color belts. It's like such a short space of time. I mean, you get your black belt and that's it. Like 30 years from now, you're still going to be a black belt.
Yep.
So enjoy the 10 years. Like enjoy that time of learning and, getting your blue belts and getting your purple belts. Those are precious times,
I think 100% Jono was saying when he was in the UK, a couple of the sort of inner city jiu-jitsu places were going blue belt in 90 days.
Yeah.
Right. So train 5 days a week, blue belt in 90 days. That's insane.
Yeah.
Even training 5 days a week. Okay.
Yeah.
So I would argue that that's not sustainable.
If you're young, then
even training hard.
Yeah.
Like training hard, but then learning it, going back over it. I have to write stuff down. Okay, I've always done that. So if we'll do a new technique. First thing I do when I go home, I write it down.
Oh,
and I write the stages down.
Really?
Because you then get and I think I used to do it, and I probably started doing it again during lockdown.
It's proven that if you write down stuff, you can remember it.
But then you see how many parts there are.
Right.
How many steps there are to the technique. Yeah.
Yeah. How many, one technique might have 8, 9, 10 different, specific moves. And what we've done, and I remember when we came back after COVID, And we almost pretty much started fundamentals. On the new syllabus, we started, the fundamental basic stuff again. And then John adding in little idiosyncrasies. And then we'd go back to it 3 months later and we'd do, top control drill. But there'd be another little kind of, fine-tuning it and fine-tuning it and fine-tuning it. So it's never finite. There's never an end to changing things up or adding slight little things to it. And that, again, gives you this sort of arsenal of different different parts of the technique or different, ways you apply that technique depending on what, your opponent's up to, whether they're big, small, strong, young, quick, slow, whatever it might be. You can't, if you're rolling against something like Mike, for example, you're going to be a completely different technique than rolling against something like Hamish. Regardless of belt level, it's just the whole, their game's 100% different. And, but you're right, I don't think I've ever seen anybody here look pissed off because they haven't graded up. Like, if you've not graded up, there'll be a very, very good reason for it. I think, if you've come out of a grading, whether you think you've done okay or you think you've not. There's always stuff that you can. I think getting a grade up should be a surprise. You know what I mean? It should be a pleasant surprise. It should not be an expectation. And I think you're right. I think when we've probably lost the handful of people that we have done over the time, it's probably because
they couldn't handle it.
Yeah, because it's hard.
It is hard.
You don't just get it for turning up.
Yep.
People expecting about. That's interesting. That should be another theme of another podcast episode.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just common through all jiu-jitsu schools, really. And I think for me, it's like, even if you're a very talented athlete, like I'm going to bring up Kit Dale again, not to say that he's a bad guy, very, very talented guy. You got his black belt, went to world, did amazingly. Like, so this, he's a legitimate, like, really good grappler. But for me personally, I feel you need to still put your time in, no matter how talented you are. You need to put the time on the mat, and that's just going to take time. So, so I think for me, like, and these exceptions, like, the, what's his name, like Terra and those guys who get their, I think he goes black belt in like 3 years or whatever it is. I mean, these guys are they're just 1 in a million type people, they're just super talented, and, they get their black belt. But if you look at Terra, he's stuck with it. Like, he's still doing jiu-jitsu today, building a great association. And where I see people, even if they get their black belt in 4 years, and then they kind of drift off and they go and do something else. Well, they're not really.
The black belt's like that ultimate thing. Oh, I've done it now, so I'll move on to the next thing.
I still feel you need to contribute back to the community. And the only way for you to contribute back to the community is by being in the community. Doing jiu-jitsu day in, day out, every week.
Well, you think about everyone that contributed to him to get to there, and so he's got to return the favor.
Yeah.
And
so who's that young girl under Danaher at the moment? Is it Helena? Oh,
yes. I know you're talking about. She's like insane.
So she's blue belt.
Yeah.
Okay. But is taking people out left, right, and centre. But I would imagine Danaher's kind of keeping it, still saying, got to put the time in.
Yep.
Gotta, he's not, I've not seen him turn up on a podium and go, have a purple belt.
Yeah, yeah. If you think about Gordon Ryan, all those guys, they got their black belts pretty quick. Bearing in mind, these guys are training twice a week, every single day.
Yeah,
almost. So if you think about the hours those guys are putting into the sport and stuff, like totally within 6 years or so, black belt. No, no questions about it. But again, these guys are still doing jiu-jitsu today. They're still contributing to the community. So, I think that with Danaher, there was one guy, Travis Stevens, who was like an Olympic judo guy. And I think he got his black belt pretty quick, but under Danaher. Yeah. But it was just like, that guy was just insane. Like, you just look at his face and he just looked just a mean bugger. Have you seen Travis? Have you seen this guy?
No.
It's just...
Looks
you
like
just
a
see
killer.
if he gripped you, it's like, oh, I'm in trouble. Yeah. sometimes get that in competition. Like you go in there and you get gripped by a person, and be like, okay, this is going to be a hard 6 minutes.
So here's a question to a black belt.
Yep.
Here we go.
What's the expectation? So something that's always interested me. Is there an expectation that you teach? So is there an expectation that when you get past a certain belt, because obviously, Dan, when he was a purple belt, teaches us, Boz was teaching us when, he was full stripe blue belt and obviously purple belt now. But you see some that don't. I didn't know if there was part of your progression through your jiu-jitsu journey. So from purple to brown to black is the teaching part of it. Is that not judged, I guess, but when you're looking at the lineage of who you get your, because I remember you saying you couldn't give Boz his purple belt really until you were a black belt. Is that right?
I think there's like a general rule where you've got to be 2 belts higher than the person than you're giving the belt to. Yeah. So even as a black belt, because I've only just got my black belt, I couldn't give another black belt to a person. So I would have to, I think if you're a 3rd degree black belt, you can hand out a black belt to a person. So that's kind of you 9 years in to being a black belt. So as a black belt, I don't think, and I think there's a bit of gray here where you can, like, so for me to give a brown belt to a person, I think I can give a brown belt to a person, but really I think you need a person who's maybe a 2nd or 3rd degree black belt.
It's locking into Leo's brain right now, what you just said.
Yeah.
John can give you a brown belt.
I was saying I was disappointed he can't give me a black belt.
Well, you probably could, but you'd have to stand it.
Yeah,
I guess so.
I'd have to be good at jiu-jitsu.
My question to you then is, what made you want to start off at the school?
I think the 2 questions there is, the one is teaching a prerequisite of there, and then the other one. So to answer the first question, no. So I think if you want to teach, then you teach. And I think to me how I see it is that you guys are coming here to unwind, to learn. So that's my responsibility to give you that and to be able to teach you guys and to help you progress. If you came to me and said, hey, I want to start learning how to teach and stuff like that, no problem. Then you guys can do that. But that's not something that I feel that you guys have to do in order to actually progress. So your progression is all about you, and what you want to do. So for me personally, I love teaching. So even as a white belt, if there was a seminar or I learned something, or Mike would let me take a class, every now and again. I think as soon as I got, as a 4-stripe white belt, then I would take a little bit more, more classes. But it was only really when I got to higher blues, purples, that I actually start teaching more regular classes. And Mike was amazing with that. Like he's an amazing person to be taught how to teach. Yeah. And so he instilled quite a good, teachings within me, I guess, for that. So that's the answer to the first question. The second one is, why did I start it? I honestly just didn't want to drive like the 30 minutes to get down to ground controls, totally for selfish reasons. So if I just needed one other person here, and that was fine. I'd have been happy with that. So, the fact that we hear there's more guys and we can regularly train and we could all hang out together, I think that's just a bonus, to me.
Totally.
So it's just it's a community thing. You're never ever going to go rich with this stuff. It's just, here to give a place for people to come down and just unwind. And the same thing happens, same thing with me. It's like, because when you're rolling, it's nothing more you can think about other than that person trying to choke you.
Yep.
So you can't be thinking about work or anything, or even if you are, that's sort of drifting into your mind. That kind of goes away pretty quickly when a person's got your back and they start to grab your collar. You're not thinking about work when that's happening. So, and it's the same with CrossFit. Like when I go there, when you're busy working out, you're not thinking about it. And I honestly feel like those, even if it's for 10 or 15 minutes, that does a world of good for your mental health.
I think so.
So
I totally believe it.
Yeah.
It's like you said before, it's like your meditation. Because I've tried meditating and then I come out of it, I'm like, whatever, I don't know. Do I feel better? I'm not sure. But if I do jiu-jitsu or like, a very hard physical workout, I feel great.
Yeah.
Like endorphins are,
Yeah.
I'm top of that's the thing for me. So I do agree. Sometimes I come in here and work still in the mine. And then when Olly's choking me out probably, then I forget about work, wake up and then roll again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's funny. It's like Jono says this to me quite often. It's like when he rolls, like he tries to not roll as hard as what he normally, because he gets like he struggles to get to sleep. Like the rest, of the, you get that. For me, that doesn't really happen. I can go to bed straight away.
Happens to me. Used to happen to James. James is exactly the same.
Yeah.
Go home, stay awake for 2 hours.
Yep.
Easy. And you're physically exhausted,
Yes.
but mentally wired.
Yeah. So it's weird how it just it happens. Are you like that?
It has happened to me, yes. But I also did a mistake of taking a pre-workout before. This is like 6:30 on the dot in the evening,
So
and
you
that pre-workout
sleep for
has, which
24
I've read now the ingredients, it's got like triple shot of caffeine and everything else.
Yeah.
And after jiu-jitsu and after that, it was 1 a.m. I was still in bed going, oh yeah, that was good. Yeah, it took us back. Oh yeah, that was good. Oh, that happened. So yeah, that was not good. So,
Yeah. It's quite funny. This guy at CrossFit, Adrian, so this guy's a builder. And so is constantly on the V's and the monster drinks and whatever. So, Red Bulls is totally...
No, not the Red Bull.
I can't do that at this
I
age.
love a Red Bull.
Yeah.
Can 60-year-olds have Red Bull?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sugar-free.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Don't put the pounds on.
But
For the old ticker.
he took one of these, is it Mustache? Is that what it's
Mustache.
called?
Yeah.
Mustache drinks.
Yeah.
He said like he took this thing before he worked out, or I think maybe after he worked out, and his like face went numb. It was like so.
That's
So
some
there you
good
go.
stuff. That's
Really
the
good
stuff.
stuff.
That's the pre-workout stuff I'm taking.
Well,
It's the same brand.
his was in a can.
Yeah, you can buy
Okay,
it.
yeah.
It's a big, like it's in the supermarkets as well.
Yes.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
And then kids are grabbing these things
Yeah.
and then having it. Like we were growing up, like Red Bull was only just coming out, and when it did, it was in those like small little cans. So
Maybe I remember
when I was around,
Yeah.
a little guy.
Yeah.
We used to use coffee. So the stuff I used to train with a guy. When I used to lift in the UK. Guy I used to train with. This guy, real good mate of mine, went to Vegas with him to the Olympia. Kind of did the whole shebang for a few years. We used to like train 9:30 at night. My ex-brother-in-law owned a gym, so we'd just be able to get the keys, go in there, proper just stick some super loud music on, pre-workout, possibly taking some level of test booster as well at the time, and
Roid it
just
up.
going hard because you could. And he would like literally get a spoonful of coffee. That's the kind of level
What,
he was
instant
at.
coffee?
He would literally just go boom, knock it back with some water. He said,
That's how real men do it.
He said, black coffee's as good as any pre-workout.
Well, it's
That's
honestly,
what it
the
is, I
pre-workout's
guess,
got
yeah.
caffeine in it, so he was doing the right
It's
thing.
the old kind of knock stuff that that's what gives it the face tingle when they put that that kind of nitrous stuff in the pre-workout. But it usually I used to make me feel quite sick after a while.
Yeah, I think it's like your stomach, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't take the stuff at all. But it's like
Don't look at me. I'm just trialing it out. Some of it works. So actually, you've missed some of the pre-workout. Man, it makes me perp. I've done a few in class. I probably should
blew
be
people
sharing.
away.
Are you blaming it on the pre-workout? Okay. I thought it was something.
It's totally the pre-workout.
Not
I've never
not
had
the
that problem.
cauliflower or anything like that.
None of that. Yeah, I am eating healthy actually, maybe, but no.
I used to train with a guy who was a hard gainer, so he couldn't put size on. The training ethic of the bloke was like second to none. He's about 6'3", just lean, and he wanted to be big. And he would just his calorific intake per day was probably kind of around the 4,000-5,000, But he would eat, he'd eat 12 eggs, 12 hard-boiled eggs, but he used to eat like a kilo of pasta before he came to train. And his gut health was not good. and he was the noisiest guy in the gym.
Right.
Like he's the screamer.
He's one of those.
Every time he's kind of pushing a rep out. Can't fault the guy's work ethic at all, but he could not put. I mean, he was in good shape.
Yeah, I was gonna say, was he big?
But he wanted to be big, and he just didn't have the genetics to, you know.
It's crazy how some of those. I mean, yeah. I just wonder how many of that guys, Gordon Ryan and all those guys, they must be all roided up. That's
allegedly. Come on, John.
Allegedly.
You don't want to get sued.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
But geez.
Yeah.
I mean, in our sport, I think it's probably. But I also think to myself, I think some guy told me that there's going to be. It's not the Olympics, but the similar to the Olympics, where they're just going. We're doing all the track events. We're doing all the lifting and all that sort of stuff. Go nuts on
no tests.
No tests.
Oh.
You want to get all roided up? That's fine. Go do it. They're basically going. What can we do through science to actually get you to your peak performance?
That'd be amazing.
So I would dig to watch that. But anyway,
I'd watch it too.
There's really interesting. So there's a guy called Dorian Yates. He's a British bodybuilder, and he won the Olympia 5 or 6 times.
Is that a blonde dude?
He's quite old now. We'll say he's quite old. He's probably about 5 years older than me. Still in pretty good shape, but he was genetically like nuts. Like if you see pictures of him,
I think some people
like Ronnie Coleman type dudes,
but thicker, like back, quads, the whole shebang. And he's quite an interesting guy. He's done a couple of books and stuff, but he followed this training regime, which was developed by a guy called Mike Mentor, who and it's basically 2 warm-up sets, okay, and 1 set per body part. That's it.
Per body part.
Yeah, okay. Because the way those guys got to the level of intensity, okay, and they call it high intensity training, is that 2 warm-up sets, he said, and 50% of your max and 75% of your max, 6 to 8 reps on the exercise. You shouldn't be able to do the 7th and 8th rep without an assist. But to get your mindset to a place where actually that is as much as you can genuinely do without having any in reserve was how they got big.
Yep.
And, they're the first people to admit, and obviously they had, they were taking steroids and everything else. But, steroids help repair stuff and help you recover. But essentially, you've still got to put the work in. You've still got to be lifting the stuff.
That's right, yeah.
And the mindset of these guys to actually go in and know that, and he said, if somebody put £1 million in front of me in a briefcase and said, 1 more rep and that's yours, you had to be at the place where you couldn't do it. Even with that, you could not do that extra rep because you had nothing left. Mike Mentor used to have 6 or 7 days rest in between training sessions.
Jeez.
After those type of sessions?
Yeah.
Right.
And that's the way he trained. He used to train with Arnold and those guys. But there's a big, thick book about the whole training. It's pretty deep. It gets pretty philosophical. But Mike's brother-in-law is a bodybuilder. He used to train like that. And people sort of said, how do you train like three times a week and you're in the gym, you're in and out in 45 minutes. You went, yeah, man, because you shouldn't have to do any more than that. But your mindset to do that is like a very small percentage of people could actually get to that level where you just go out, so fully depleted.
Yep.
It's very, it's quite admirable in some ways, but it's your whole life gets taken over.
I think so. A guy, do you remember Ross Murphy? Were you around when he was doing jiu-jitsu? So
I'm a visual guy. You got to show me a photo. I'm like, oh, that guy.
Stick it on. I'll stick it on the podcast video.
Screwed your memory.
Yeah, it wasn't the pre-workout that screwed my memory. It's rolling with Olly that screwed my memory.
But yeah, I went to go train with him because he was competing in the, I don't know, what's it called, the New Zealand bodybuilding contest, which he won. But I went and did a workout with him, and he was doing something very similar, which was like he was doing banded, like you put like these bands on the weights, and then you would start going. And so I'd be counting, be like, don't count, just go to the
fail.
rep, and you go till you can't go anymore.
Yeah.
And then you were doing sets of those, and that's what he was doing. I think he was training every day. I think, but he was following very similar to that, which
True
was
failure.
Yeah, true to failure. Yes, but maybe not to the point where maybe if you really needed to, maybe you could have pushed out 1 or 2 reps, but basically just go, don't even count. So you could have done like maybe 20 or 25 reps, and then on that 26, 27, that's when you're like really struggling to get that up. And that I thought that was pretty interesting, like how they were doing that. Yeah.
You didn't have like a buildup of amino acids and felt like you're going to puke or anything like that?
No, you just feel you could just, if you just feel like you just can't go anymore. Yeah.
Have you had that though in any of your big man workouts where you're about to puke?
Yeah.
Good.
Legs, normally.
A leg, yes.
Have you seen those guys sometimes on either on Instagram or YouTube where these, they'll do like a deadlift and then they'll make it, drop the bar, be really happy, and then they just faint.
On
the floor. Have you seen that?
No.
So if you're lifting, like it happens to me at CrossFit, right? So you're practicing, your back squats or front squats, or whatever, and you're trying to go to your 1RM, and you start, you make it, and you get this like, you start feeling like really dizzy.
Wow.
But it's kind of like a nice feeling too.
It's slightly euphoric.
It is a little bit
before you hit the deck.
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting. Like, and you shouldn't be doing your 1RM in every session that you're trying to do. So you you put that as a benchmark, and then for the next 3 or 4 months, you're doing kind of, you do sets of, okay, we're going to start at 50%, then we'll work our way to 80%, and then after about 3 or 4 months of doing that, then you go test yourself again to try and see, okay, what is my next 1RM? And hopefully you've gone a bit more.
Yes.
You put that work in.
Right.
It's really crap when you either stay the same or you go backwards. It's like, what? How does that happen?
It's because you didn't have the pre-workout.
Yeah,
so
you didn't have the pre-workout.
If you're doing those, you'd be...
Yeah.
Have you got your own brand coming out?
Why you think I'm going to promote it? It's called Pass Gas.
Pass Gas pre-workout. Chuff pre-workout. But you're right, in situations like that, I remember like we'd be falling on the floor, like you'd rack a squat.
Yeah.
And you couldn't stand up. It was that level of fatigue.
We would just move the bin closer to where we were doing squats, because I would it's the only body part where I'd be like, I'm gonna throw up. And all the other guys were way bigger than me, and they're like, "Oh, come on, pussy, do another." And we'd all do it, and then some of us would throw up.
Yeah, it's pretty horrible.
Yeah, but back then that was kind of the norm. I don't think you could do that now in the gym. Like if I did that
I
at all,
reckon it probably happens.
Certain gyms you could.
It's certain gyms. I don't think this one they'd be like, "Oh, gross, get out of here, you puked up."
Beachlands, I don't think so.
There's too many people filming themselves to go on Instagram.
They'd be like, "Check out the guy puking in the corner. Look at that." Ah.
There used to be the old dungeon gyms.
Yeah.
There are a few in the UK still now where it's.
Is it
there
really
used to be
gym?
one in a town called Welling Garden City, which is kind of in between sort of Cambridge and London for anybody who wants any geographical rough placement of it. It's about
Riveting.
25 minutes north of London, and your starting thing, like they had a 20 kilo Olympic bar with a 20k plate each side of it, so 60 kilos total welded onto it, right? And if you couldn't do 10 squats with that straight off from a squat rack,
Get out.
you weren't coming in. It's that kind of thing, and
How
they don't suit
how do
everybody.
they monitor that though? They're like, "Hey, you're new. Go over there. 10 squats. Go."
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But what it did is it kind of and it. I wouldn't say it was a healthy training environment for somebody trying to get fit,
But it would set a culture.
but it was
though.
a healthy training environment for people that wanted to just grind out bench, squats,
right.
deadlifts, the big power moves, and that's what it was designed for. They don't want, and this is going to sound like a real old man statement, but
They want noobs.
gyms going in there with 5 people standing around one piece of kit, and they're on it for like 30 minutes. These guys needed to like time was expensive to them, and they wanted to make the most of it. So
Actually, I tell you what grinds my gears is people on their cell phone on the system that you want to use, or the weights that you're trying to use, and they're just on their phone chilling out. This guy today, I shouldn't say this because he'll probably hear this and then he'll know it's him, wearing Crocs, took his Crocs off while still sitting on the machine I want to use on his phone.
was it lockdown?
He was getting ready for his tournament.
So he wasn't actually doing his leg.
Wasn't doing his
workout,
leg
and then-
workout. He just took it easy.
Well, number one, wearing Crocs.
Well, that's the other thing. I was like, man, gym has
gym.
changed. It's been a while since I've come to the gym, but things have changed, and I was trying to be not the old middleman and tell him to get. So I just went and did something else. But I thought that was interesting.
You could have said, "Hey, look, I'm a white belt in jiu-jitsu. Get off."
Oh,
Not only a white belt, I'm a 3-stripe white belt.
that would make such a big difference to a guy that has no idea what jiu-jitsu is. He just
Listen
looked at
to
me
me.
going, "What?
I'm a 3-stripe white belt. Get off this machine.
Get off
right
now."
Yeah.
Yeah. I probably could have said that. Yeah.
He'd
And then banned from
tripped over his Crocs as he was stumbling away.
Would have injured myself.
Did he have any of
again.
those? Did he have any of those little decorations they put on them as well?
I don't think so. No, but
Actually, a
no,
guy comes here with one of those. So they actually look pretty cool.
I know the world has gone completely 180 when Crocs are cool.
Yeah, I remember people used to give them shit.
I've got Crocs, but I use them when I'm outside.
All right, John.
What about the gym?
Hey?
What about the gym?
No, not the gym. I wear no bulls.
There you go. Anyway, it was a great conversation, lads. I don't know how much longer you guys want to keep going.
I reckon that's probably it.
I think that's a hell of an episode there,
Cool. Thanks, Ollie.
Ollie.
Oh, you're welcome. It was fun.
We want you back, especially after your ribs healed, and we'll hear
It's
about.
a couple of weeks' time when I've then off for another 6 weeks after I popped it straight out again.
So I think that's what it is. So he's going to come back in 2 weeks.
Yes.
Then we're going to give you a month, and you come back on the podcast, and then it's going to be like, okay, what's your experience been?
Yes, and where
being on
you
the
saw
mat again.
are you sore again in specific areas, muscles that you've forgotten that you had?
Except
I am scared to death about jiu-jitsu fitness. Like, my fitness is okay because I've kept doing stuff, but jiu-jitsu fitness, which is a whole other podcast, jiu-jitsu fitness versus normal fitness.
yeah.
And we'll take you back to, there was a couple of guys, which we'll have to talk about next time. I remember coming back in the, when it was over at Tapuru, who were like long distance fitness athlete type guys, and they just couldn't handle it
Yeah.
Oh,
because it's so different.
right.
But
Yeah.
that's a whole other conversation.
It is.
There's lots of themes that we're going to be covering. So yes, Ollie, thank you. John, thank you.
Cool. Thanks, boys.
What's the name of the podcast again?
The Tranquil Gi Podcast.
Sponsored
got
by
it.
Volcom.
Yeah. And absolute
Yeah.
mixed martial arts.
That's a wrap.
All right. Cheers, guys.